Welcome back. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. It's been a nice 3-week break. Definitely meant to get on here earlier, a couple days ago when I got back. But you know how the holidays are. You know how Florida gets this time of year, around the new year. Everyone wants to get together and have some beers. Beers lead to a few J's. And having a J and some beers means that you can't really do podcasts. So I wouldn't classify the last 72 hours of my life as a bender, but incapacitated, sure, just in some form or fashion. But hey, 2026, here we go. Why change, right? Got me this far. My choices, sure, everyone could eat better, drink a little less, but who cares? Or at least maybe today we have a new reason to care, because I'll tell you what, y'all, 2026 is going to be the year of waking up excited again. Not even really all about me, but shit. Any day you wake up, you could just find that this country or this president has done something else. Either the president's done something else, or, the ludicrous amounts of immigrants have done something else, and lo and behold, someone from Gen Z has uncovered something incredible. But yeah, let's go ahead and start real quick about the last 3 weeks. Christmas time, holiday season, Shabbat Shalom, whatever the bullshit that you all celebrate. That's great. Welcome back. I jumped up to see my childhood best friend and his wife and their 2 kids, spent the weekend with them, then moved over to Nashville, where I was supposed to spend an extended period of time, but I was really only there less than a day, because I can't do home anymore. Unfortunately, I can't do Nashville. It took me about 30 minutes to realize that Nashville is just, every guy there is like the gay version of Travis Kelce. Very white, very pale, wears Ugg boots, shorts, has a stupid fucking haircut. Yeah. Well, the acceleration of the gayness of Nashville has definitely taken place. Very glad I left. I encourage all my friends left behind. I think most of them are looking for a way out too. But yeah, so I'm supposed to be there 3 days. Ended up hitting the road a little under 24 hours. It's always nice to see my friends. They seem to be all doing well, and they started doing drugs at noon now instead of 5 o'clock. That's always concerning. I am concerned for a few of them. But we're all getting older, and if you're not having a family and you're not really making any kind of waves with that, then what else is someone supposed to do? Start a business? Imagine that. Imagine someone right now wanting to go out and work really hard, like 80 hours a week, work hard as an entrepreneur and work their fingers to their bone and see where all that tax money goes. Because a week ago, the news broke about Minnesota daycare fraud, which is really nothing new. There's a lot of people out there that have been paying attention to what's going on with these immigrants and what they're up to. Now that the toothpaste is out of the tube, everyone realizes, holy shit. Holy fucking shit. All of my money is going to facilitate some Star Wars name, some Alibaba Durka person from Somalia who has an IQ of above a piece of shit, literally. And they're defrauding the government, us taxpayers, for billions of dollars a year. I mean, why are we working? Why are we wanting to establish the American dream? Because I don't think that is real for hardworking men and women of this country, true Americans. You know, the people I see living the American dream are all these dirtbag, fleabag, scumbags from all over the world that are coming here and just raping the system. And I'm going to have to bleep that out because, you know, I use it in the correct sense, but YouTube's so lib and whatever. I'm going to have a bunch of sissy men saying you can't say the R word. Well, you know what? You're a fag. How about that? Yeah, so I'm pissed, if you can't tell. You know, this is just another example of, you know, rules for thee, not for me type shit that you see with the left. I mean, I highly doubt any of you watching are left leaning or liberal, but if you are, and, you know, for that one or two of you that is out there, what's it going to take? You know, what news story is going to have to break in order for you to take your giant head out of your small ass? Because I don't know how you can defend the bullshit that's going on your side of the aisle of politics. Now, the right side of the aisle has plenty of issues, but I'm not concerned about the right now. I'm literally looking. I want to find someone that can tell me how Somalian daycare fraud, amidst all the other fraud they're committing, isn't a problem. And if it's not a problem, then I would love to hear why it's not. You know, if I were calling the shots, I'd be having as many of these dark-figured, bulb-headed people in front of a camera and microphone talking. I mean, essentially C-SPAN, 24/7, just the biggest idiots in Minneapolis running their mouth about what it is that they've been doing. I mean, I'm loving all the content and videos. These morons are showing up wearing $1,200 eyeglasses, showing off their Lord knows how expensive wedding rings they're getting, all off of the backs of American workers. You know, and Nick Shirley, Gen Z's savior, essentially. You know, and I'm going to give him some props here. I was wrong about Gen Z. You know, probably most of the guys are clueless and lost, but you know, some of them are out there with a real passion and a real desire to not just piss it all away, kind of like how maybe I am at this point. But, you know, for the one or two people that watch me or listen to me, and, you know, I guess I'm doing my part too, right? Me and Nick Shirley side by side, except he's way more influential than I'll ever be. And good for him. But yeah, so he, you know, it's just the same old playbook. A white person goes out, discovers something that a immigrant or a black person or a brown person does, and what's the immediate response? Racism. White nationalism. Oh, look, honey, the Nazis are at it again. I mean, it's funny to me. It's really funny to me. Pointing out that something's wrong and that someone should investigate is white power. Well, then consider me Adolf fucking Hitler. And, you know, the ultimate goal of all these immigrants that is coming in here, I mean, this has been decades in the making. You know, all they want to do is import people that are going to vote, you know, essentially at the end of the day, to keep receiving all this money, this fraud. And then eventually the voting blocks are going to switch. And then now all the power and control is in the people who have essentially been fed. I mean, everyone's gone to the zoo, right? And you see those signs, please do not feed the animals. Or maybe it's not the zoo. It probably is at the zoo, but in the wild, you go to these campsites, and park rangers or whatever the hell society that's out there in the woods is saying, do not feed the wild animals. There's a lot of good reasons, but the biggest reason is if you feed all these wild animals, they get accustomed to it. And then when that food runs out, they go crazy. They go hog wild all over probably you and the environment and everything, because you've conditioned them to where they don't have to work, they don't have to survive, they don't have to try. It's just given. And that's essentially what we're doing with all these immigrants. They have no skills. They have no desire to even learn English. I mean, these people that they're arresting have been here for like 2 decades, can't speak a goddamn lick of English. Just on the take the entire time. It's insane. And for someone on the left to be like, no, we need these people. They are part of our society. They are contributing. Well, it's like, well, fucking show me. Let me see their tax returns. Oh, well, they don't know how to file taxes. They're too retarded. Well, then they shouldn't be here. If you can't make a sentence in English, get the fuck out. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. I mean, this is insane. What? It's insane. And the end goal, in my opinion, I'm not some oracle. I just think I'm a normal person with a lick of sense out here. It's like we're going to just keep importing these people, and then we're going to start giving them law enforcement jobs, pilot jobs, military jobs, to where the whole system eventually fails because they're a bunch of fucking morons. And not only that, they're going to be the people that are going to actually go kill and arrest other Americans, like true Americans. You think your neighbor Steve is just going to go round up a bunch of people he knows on the cul-de-sac for their political beliefs? No, they're going to go across town into the ghetto, the government-paid ghetto, and get, again, some Star Wars guy, Jabba the fuck, to come into your neighborhood and take you away in cuffs. If not, just shoot you dead in the street, because that's just how all this shit ends throughout history. So, yeah. Last week, I was sitting here thinking, oh, well, you know what? This is the end of America. This is the end of life as I've known it, as you've known it. Because if we're just going to allow this to happen, then what's the point of going forward? If everyone knows that all this immigration is a scam, which it's been evident from the beginning, but now that the dumbass public knows, the sheep of the world, now that they're starting to ask questions, what little intelligence that they can muster to ask, once they start to figure out what's going on, then what's the point of working? If half of your money is being taken away and given it to people who contribute nothing to the bottom line, and all they do is just get fatter and dumber from your labor, then, you got to cut that off. And I see a lot of people on the right and on Republicans saying tax strike. Yeah, I mean, that's great and all. Yeah, try not paying taxes and see what happens. Try it. That's not the way. Or maybe it is the way, but I can tell you one thing. If everyone collectively just stopped paying taxes, we'd all just be looking at each other the next day being like, okay, well, who's gonna fix this? And I was out on Trump a week ago. I had no hope for this guy, because I think he's fumbled pretty much the first year of his presidency. And then what happens today on Saturday, January 3rd, when I wake up? I even think I woke up on time today, 8 o'clock. That's early for a Saturday. Essentially ringing in the new year. Dude, we went in and we fucking bagged the president of Venezuela, and we took his wife. And on the way out the door, we took a giant shit on Hugo Chavez's gravesite. I mean, I'm back on the Trump train. That shit alone is going to have me full of hopium and copium for the next. I'm going to give him a year, right? And there's really no reason to stop at Venezuela. Go ahead and hit Colombia, whoever the fuck else, but definitely make sure you tap with a T on Mexico. You know, you want to label Maduro ahead of a narco terrorist group. Well, what about the Jew bitch down in Mexico? Huh? What about her covering for all the cartels? It's obvious Mexico is compromised. That would actually be a war worth fighting. You would actually probably have a lot of public support behind that. But yeah, I'm back on Trump. Or maybe I'm just all on Marco Rubio. He seems to be knocking it out the park right now. And good for them, and good for the men and women of the Army. I mean, it's great to get a little bit of reassurance and satisfaction that the Army still is capable of going in, kicking the door down, knocking your fucking teeth out, and then getting out without a hitch. And that happened. And kudos to all the men and women involved with that. That's very impressive. That got me rock hard first thing in the morning. Hell yeah, I love to wake up to shit like that. You know, 160th, the Night Stalkers up in Fort Campbell where I was. I mean, I wasn't high speed like that at all, and I never wanted to be. But I tell you, it really makes me happy to see that there's some special forces out there that weren't completely gutted by this bullshit peacetime that we've been in. I mean, now's the time to go fucking knock someone's head off. Because there is no tomorrow, in my opinion. If we don't get things right in this next 3 years, then there is no future. You know, in this year, this calendar year, this country's been around for 250 years. I think it might be time to let the world remember exactly who the fuck we are and what we're the fuck about. We need to do something about these fucking billionaires. 250 years later, all we have is a concentrated power of oligarchs instead of we the people. You know, if anything, at the end of the day, these selfish fat fucks need to be afraid for their lives. And yeah, there's probably a couple good ones out there, but show me one billionaire that's a good person. You know? And no, none of the women who are billionaires because they inherited all their husband's money and work off his back count. Because, you know, those bitches should probably get nothing. Yeah, they're all in St. Bart's, every one of them for New Year's. Just passing around trafficked women, potentially children, you know, doing drugs that you and I would melt our brain on. I've tried it. It's incredible. I'm very, very jealous at times how clean of a high that is. But yeah. I mean, there's a video out there of Jeff Bezos with his, I guess now his second wife, the fake plastic one. Part of me feels bad for this guy because he, you know, despite all of his money, success, and status, he's still a fucking loser at the end of the day, and I think that he knows that. I mean, imagine working your whole life, busting your ass just to live in your 60s how the average 22-year-old lives in college with a bottle service and some girl with fake tits and a fake face nowadays. I mean, shit, that's all over college campuses. There's not a whole lot real left out there, y'all. And at the end of the day, it's just gross. It's like, you know, if that's all that we're aspiring to be as men in this world, that we put on our boots, go to work, make a paycheck, half of it goes to some dumbass that can't wipe his ass from some third world shithole, and the rest you're just stockpiling for what? So you can marry some bimbo and listen to her screech in St. Bart's or Ibiza? Yeah, I'll pass. You know, I think it's time for men to start looking inward again. Inward, not inward. Inward may come back this year too. I mean, who knows? I mean, who knows what kind of crazy stuff? Who knows what kind of crazy stuff? I'm not going to be the one to fall on that sword. I'll leave that up for some other brave soul. But yeah, I mean, look at these billionaires, guys. They're so out of touch with even themselves at the end of the day. They try so hard with their money to overcompensate for the fact that they never got their dick sucked in high school or college. You know, the first woman they married probably loved them, but, you know, she was a 5 at best, right? Bill Gates and all these people, or Chuck Schumer, all these guys are married to essentially men. I swear some of these guys are actually married to men in a wig. And they're just taking it out on the rest of us because at the end of the day, a woman, all she's got is beauty. And at the end of the day, all a man has is a set of nuts. So if those two people are just going to spend the rest of their lives overcompensating for what they know they don't have, well, then we're in a tough spot. You know, at least Zuckerberg is out there trying to be cool. You know, he's been doing MMA for years now, and I'll be honest, the guy could probably kick my ass up and down the street, but it still doesn't change the fact that he's a fucking dork. You know? Yeah, I'll get my tooth knocked out by the Zuck cuck, but hey man, Meta sucked. That VR that you rolled out and that you were so geeked about didn't quite take off. So why don't you go back to your little room in the dark and just let the cool people continue, you know, just being naturally cool. And that's ultimately what, at the end of the day, this comes down to. You know, social media has convinced a lot of women that they're attractive and a lot of guys that they're cool. But at the end of the day, man, I mean, you know, who you were in high school probably is who you are going to be the rest of your life. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, the coolest people in the world are the ones that don't have to try. They don't have to try to convince you that they're cool. The most beautiful women in the world don't have to try either. They just are what they are. That's the way they move. It's the way they talk. It's not the clothes they wear or the fake shit that they put on their body. Nature just is what it is. You're either cool or you're not. You're hot or you're not. You're beautiful or you're not. And yeah, everyone's got a degree of beauty in them, but, you know, we're not all the same. We're not created all the same. That's another one of these goy slop lies from whoever the fuck wrote that book. Yeah, we may have been created equal in the eyes of God, but if you haven't traveled the world, you should see what's out there in the eyes of God. There is definitely those that are better than others. And you can blame me for saying it, but shit. We got a lot of people in this country that don't deserve to be here, and I'll go ahead and say it. I am better than these people. You, a lot of you out there, are better than these people. You know, those days of Ellis Island, give me your sick, give me your poor, give me your hungry. No, that's over. In fact, go ahead and take that shit off, because we need a new plaque. You know, go ask Trump to write a new fucking plaque. He'll do it. He'd love to do it. That stuff that he's done at the White House is still all time. Putting Joe Biden's picture up there was just the auto pen. You know, and when are we going to go after him and his drug addict retard son, huh? I hope it's coming. I honestly think this Maduro guy might sing like a canary, because if there's one thing this dude's not going to want, he's not going to want someone's dick in his ass in prison. And that's exactly what's going to happen to him. And those guys in those penitentiaries are going to love it. Dicking down some dictator. I mean, it just kind of rolls off the tongue. So yeah, my prediction this year is he's going to say that, yeah, the voting machines that we're responsible for, we did hijack your election in 2020. I mean, if anybody's on the fence, just look at the Minneapolis bullshit. I mean, they're paying for votes, they're buying votes, they're signing up people to vote that aren't even there. A person in Minnesota can claim that they know 8 other people and vote for them. In what world? How is that normal or fair or rational? It's not. I mean, they tried to say that getting voter ID to where you had to get an ID to vote was racist because people couldn't figure out how to get an ID. You know, that's the left standpoint. If you can't figure out how to go to the DMV and get an ID, you don't get to vote. You're an idiot. And that's exactly what the government wants. They want you to be a fucking idiot. So I don't know how you solve the voter ID crisis, but, you know, the days of allowing a Somalian immigrant to come here and vote should be well over, in my opinion. And before we deport them or kick them out, I mean, we need there needs to be collective punishment. I'm not saying capital punishment, except for some of the high level ringleader type, but you know, take a hand or two off on the way out the door and send them back home with a message to their other little minions, retard minions over there. Don't come here. Shitter's full. Shitter's definitely full to those people. You know, bring as many Venezuelan women over a 7 as you want, but leave all that trash in the trash can. And in fact, maybe all these Venezuelans we're liberating, we can send them all home. But I don't know. I don't have too much hope. I mean, at the end of the day, it's all about oil. Venezuela has the largest oil supply in the world. We're sitting on now $17 trillion worth of resources. You know, I think Trump was pretty honest about it today, saying we're going to take control of the government of Venezuela, of the oil. You know, instead of doing that song and dance tiptoe routine that George Bush did with Afghanistan and Iraq. I mean, there's no reason we should have been there for 20 years. I mean, that's just a money laundering wet dream to these globalists, these elite people that getting rich off the backs of American blood. So yeah, today again, like I said, January 3rd. Can't wait to see tomorrow. And if there's ever a time in the world for things to shake out, it's right now. You know, I won't be surprised when China takes Taiwan. I won't be surprised when Israel decides to attack Iran or Iraq. You know, the time is now. Through chaos, things get done, and you might as well just throw all the chaos in at once. And if it's World War III, then so fucking be it. You know, I would rather go out in a fucking nuclear war than sit behind and watch my fucking country just be a shell or a husk of what it used to be. I mean, you think the old people are racist now? Jesus Christ! Wait till I'm 90 with my Neuralink. You know, the world hasn't seen racism. In fact, I'll be coming up with new words. They're going to put my fucking brain in the Smithsonian saying this is the smartest white man ever to live. Just listen to him talk. That's a promise. But I'm not making it to 90. If I get to 80, I'd be pretty happy. I feel like life kind of loses all function after 80. And I see a lot of people down here in Florida, y'all. I mean, they're like 100 years old out there walking every day. And that's beautiful. That's awesome. But the world's passed them by. And, you know, if you could probably ask them, they would say they're ready to go. You know, most old people are kind of like that family pet that when it's time, it knows it's time to get out the dog door, go out back under the tree and just, you know, say your piece. But yeah, so last topic tonight's going to be about us, millennials, because they all like to say that the boomers are the greatest generation. And, you know, there was a lot of things that happened to the boomers that they didn't deserve. They didn't deserve to have to be 18 years old and go storm the beaches of Europe to defeat, who they thought at the time was the enemy. And the other Gen X or whoever falls into that Vietnam, that war era of being plucked out of high school and having to go to the jungle to fight Charlie, and having your entire world upside down over that. Those people did a lot of good things too. But look at us as millennials. I mean, we're children of both of them. And look at the world outside. So do you think they got it right? Because I don't. I don't think they got it right. I don't think they were close at all. In fact, I don't think they were damn near anything over the target, because look at what they've left us. We're out here competing with the rest of the fucking world for work on our own soil. No one can buy a house because there's no supply. And the ones that can are getting effed in the A over the rate of their mortgage and just the flat out cost of living. You and I are out there paying bills while the fucking lower class people are eating at, seafood boil restaurants and shit. And I'm convinced that there's not one taxpayer that eats in that shit. Get me the fucking crab bag where you eat with your hands and you throw it all on a fucking table like an animal. Yeah, I mean, those people deserve to be in there. They belong in there. That shit's got to go. That's got to go away too. I mean, how many of those places are we going to figure out that is part of this whole money laundering thing? All of them, probably. Crazy. Anyways, back to the topic at hand. Millennials. It's natural to bitch and complain when things aren't going your way. And, I was good at it before I even got into the military, but the military really showed me my true strength. And that's how to bitch and how to moan. And more importantly than that is how to speak for other people that are too probably ashamed, embarrassed, or just cowardly to say it. I've always been that guy. And many times throughout growing up in, private school, I mean, they couldn't stand me because they couldn't contain me. And yeah, you can give me a detention for violating the code of conduct or speaking out of line or not when spoken to, but that didn't really work out for them in the end. A couple years I got teased with being suspended, but no, that ain't gonna work on me then in middle school and whatever the fuck YouTube or any of these people government wants to come up with that. It's not gonna work on me now. So, I don't know shit from anything. I'm just giving my perspective on things. But if more people started to have a little bit of backbone and just a little bit more grit behind the frustrations that they experience on the day-to-day, and instead of just sitting there and going home and masturbating that away or drinking it away or getting high to get it away, I mean, start saying things that are bothering you, and guess what happens? Something good. You say something at a bar. Oh, shit, someone overheard that. Now you got a new friend. Now you got a real friend, a comrade. Because that at the end of the day is how this all changes. Is when we collectively say, millennials, right? Maybe Gen Z, if they actually want to do it like they seem they do. And we just say, no, gam, we're not paying you Social Security anymore. You've had that your entire life. Now you're going to the home. And visiting hours are between 5 and 7 p.m. on Sunday. So I'll see you then. Right? And in the meantime, we have this Somalian family that's going to work here. They're going to take great care of you, and nothing bad's ever going to happen. And those nursing room torture videos are heinous to watch. I'm not the biggest advocator of my parents right now, but even on my worst day, I would kill myself in the street before I ever put them in a home like that to be abused by some Neanderthal. It's crazy, man. I've seen too much. I know way too much. I miss being naive. I miss being a freshman liberal in college. Oh, everything's bad, and I'm just gonna talk about why it's bad, and I don't know why it's bad, but everyone's just saying it. I mean, it is easier to go with the flow. It is easier to go with the flow, but I'll tell you what, millennials, we started out by, late 80s. I'll just start there. That's when I was born in 87, right? Gulf War, first big first big thing on the millennial pie chart was the Gulf War, early 90s, followed by the Oklahoma City bombing. People were running around being like, "Oh my God, a white man blew up a hospital," and all the conspiracies behind that. And then that's when like Larry King was on the air, and every old person was just like, I trust Larry because his name's Larry. I mean, how bad is Larry and King? Larry King. I mean, that's a great name. Great name. But yeah, Oklahoma City bombing. I mean, look into that. That was all the government. All the government. Then you had Columbine. I'll never forget Columbine. I was in 5th grade when Columbine happened. 5th grade. And that was... I never even imagined that one day I could go to school and get shot by my peers. I mean, there were definitely some some people out there that wanted to hurt me in 5th grade, but to kill with a gun? No way. And just that was a big moment for millennials to be like, whoa, like, maybe I should be nicer to Craig at recess. He's getting awfully quiet in class. I hate to see what number of I'm on a list with Craig. But yeah, I mean, Columbine changed things. I remember this one kid got expelled from our private school because he wrote in 7th grade his manifesto. And still to this day, I mean, kids are creative, right? I really don't think that kid was actually going to do something, but it's possible. He loved anarchy and all this shit. And I mean, in some ways I do too, but I'm not gonna write a short story about killing the principal and the receptionist, which he did. And I kind of felt bad because I was his buddy next to him in class, and like the teacher's like, okay, now give your work to the person sitting next to you, and I had to read that. And so yeah, after class, I told on him. His name was Mike. I told on little Mike. I was just like, something's just not right. Not to say that I like my principal, but he was talking about blowing his head smooth off, and I think I laughed at first, and then it kind of set in that maybe this is a thing, because this kid did come from a public school before he got to where we were. But yeah, so Mike, if you're listening, man, that one's on me. Years later, I apologize for probably destroying your entire life. But that's okay. That's just how the chips fall. And you can get me back next time. Next life, I'll be the miserable cunt in 7th period. Yeah, okay, so after Columbine, then you have, I got to stay on topic. Internet. The internet was a game changer for kids. Technology just in general at the end of the 90s was, Yahoo. Yahoo used to be Yahoo. I still remember that little thing, the advertisement. That was a big deal. I mean, little websites were vying for just a piece of the pie. And then now they're all relics. I mean, I remember being a 12-year-old in like AOL sex chat rooms. I don't even know really in depth about how much of sex I knew, but at 12 years old, I was pressing S2R, send to receive, to all these women across America. And they would be sending me pictures of their pussy and their tits. And I'm just 12 years old, man. I mean, that dopamine is just blowing my brain out. You know, I couldn't beat my little pecker quick enough to that stuff. And I'm just thinking, like, you dumb bitch. If you only knew that I'm 12 years old. You know. But in reality, I was probably talking to a 32-year-old man. So, Spider-Man meme. We're all pointing here. But childhood, how nice was childhood? Okay, so with the rise of the internet and technology, we get the birth of Napster and file sharing. And dude, that was a game changer. I remember every Friday after school or every other Friday, Mom would drop me off at the mall for a few hours, let me go into like Sam Goody and get a CD. And I'd have to figure out a way that I could get a CD with a parental advisory warning past them when I got back in the car. I remember I got Ludacris Word of Mouth, M-O-U-F. I think I was in 6th grade. I love that CD. I played that CD till I could recite every word. Still may. But yeah, Napster file sharing, that changed all that. There was no more having to get one by the old goalkeeper in the car on the way home. You know, what CD did you get today? Oh, you know, just a soundtrack, the Star Wars soundtrack. Oh, nice. You know, let's listen to it. You know, I got caught many times with pulling that one. It didn't really sound like a soundtrack to a score to a motion major picture. But I thought I was slick, just like most boys that age. But yeah, Napster blew the whole thing up, being like, well, you know, now we all own, we own digital assets. We own creative spaces made by other people. And if it weren't for Napster, we wouldn't have what we have today. I mean, that was a revolutionary application from Silicon Valley. You know, and that was that was the embodiment of like our era at that time. Is we're gonna take, you know, and instead of taking to the streets and marching like they do now and looking all gay and stuff, we had some guy with an axe to grind who actually went out there and did it. And that's badass. And that's what I'm starting to see with, you know, with Gen Z. You know, I'm starting to get that same kind of feeling. It's like, oh man, like the stakes are high and these kids are coming out to play. And I love that. And that makes me happy and hopeful for, you know, the future to come and things to come. So, all right, I'm going to close this out. After file sharing, believe me, I'll land this plane. I got somewhere I'm going with this. Then we had 9/11, right? So I'm in 7th grade, and I just smashed that light behind me. I think I broke it. I'm in 7th grade when 9/11 happens. It was 9 a.m. We stopped class the rest of the day, and we just it was sick. I just watching person after person jump to their death, and all the news channels are all saying different stuff, and parents come and pick me up early, take me home. I mean, for days, the news was just, you know, what happened? Who did this? Who's responsible? Oh, Osama bin Laden has come out and taken credit that he did that. And I'm like, no, he didn't. And a lot of my friends are like, no, he didn't. He lives in a cave. He's supposed to be on dialysis, right? That's what everyone said. I mean, all the mock-ups they were running is being like, here are the cave people. This is how cave people did this atrocity. But it was evident that 9/11 did not happen the way they said it was. You know, I'm not saying George Bush was the one flying the plane into the Twin Tower, but every single thing about 9/11 looks like a giant coincidence. And there can't be a coincidence after a coincidence after a coincidence after a coincidence after a coincidence. It's statistically impossible. Doesn't happen like that. And, and until we go back and find out exactly what happened with 9/11, none of the stuff that we're doing today really matters. It does, but it ultimately doesn't, because 9/11 is going to be 9/11 is going to be the watershed moment in history that when they finally tell the truth is when one or two things happens. We achieve world peace or the end of days. Because telling people the truth of what I believe is there were some really invested people that wanted American troops to destabilize those regions for resources. And that, again, I'm not some military strategist or geopolitical savant. I'm just a normal guy that's looking at dollars and cents. And I really don't think the world's that much different or more complicated than just looking at the end of the day at dollars and cents. So we wasted 20 years in the Middle East of resources, and then countless lives of the bravest, finest men and women that this country has. Americans, real Americans, over 9/11. And I just think as millennials, we've all been at the bar. We've all been at the holidays. Everyone knows that 9/11 is a conspiracy, but it's ultimately time that we get answers. And, for national security reasons, they'll never tell us, but, if enough of us really want it, the universe will find a way to get it. So, yeah, lies there. 9/11, weapons of mass destruction, Iraq, Afghanistan. Meanwhile, the explosion of pharmaceuticals due to all the poppy fields we secured. I mean, that right there is terrorism. That's both international and domestic terrorism on your own people, orchestrated by the United States government. Getting an entire generation of people hooked on those pain pills that they did. Families desecrated, ruined by all that. Where's the accountability? I mean, the Sackler family, right? I don't know how many people actually went to jail. Because in this country, if if you have money, the rules don't apply. But it's just another thing that we've had to go through. And all this stuff. We were young, but it mattered. It really mattered because it kind of showed you. It definitely showed you the way of how the world worked, and in many regards how power works. Hurricane Katrina. Take that. I think that was my senior year of high school. The famous George Bush doesn't like black people. Yeah, and like I said in the previous episode, he was right. Who gives a shit about Katrina? It's poor. But that's the way this country works. And truth be told, I think they knew that the dam was going to break, or they blew the dam. It doesn't matter who's in office. They've just got to keep us at all times. And the easiest thing is to look at the color of your skin and say, well, someone else has it better than you. Go get them. But I think we're calling out of that. I think even black people can look at a Somali and be like, well, I know I'm better than this guy. Maybe that's what we should do. We should give all black people in America a Somalian slave for retribution. Jokes, obviously, right? I'm really trying to just make light of all this, but I'm not really opposed of making Somalians slaves in this country at this point. I mean, they're not slaves since we kind of bought them. We paid it forward. They've stolen so much money. So, you know, maybe Tyrone doesn't go on the block and sell crack today. He sends out Jock to do it for him. You know, Tyrone just sits at home, middle management. Meanwhile, Jock's out there, you know, listening to How to Get Rich or Die Trying. Then Jock actually becomes a real American. Sorry, guys. Yeah. All right. So, millennials, then social media. So all of this, 9/11, all this stuff, it happens so quickly. Then Facebook happens. So if you didn't think about killing yourself while at school, thanks to Facebook, you can go home and think about killing yourself because the bully's out there now, 24/7. You know, that's not my personal experience, but I know that at the beginning of Facebook, there were a lot of suicides because people were losing hope that the real world, the world they live in at home, wouldn't be the one they had at school. And there's a lot of you out there probably right now that are pretty young. You couldn't have a Facebook if you didn't go to college or, I don't know, I don't want to say private school, but we had a private school email server, and so we got Facebook early. Then everything was about likes and, dude, FOMO. If I miss this party and those pictures go up and I'm not there, well then am I gonna be cool? Am I gonna have to pay for this 30 years later when I'm in my 50s trying to feel like I should have been invited to that barn party? You know, look at today. Australia just put in place no social media for children under the age of 16. That's incredible. I love that. I hope that works. I highly doubt it because there's one thing about kids and parents. They can break them pretty easily. Parents like, fine, take your fucking phone. Get out of here. Yeah, social media. And then the financial collapse of 2008. You know, that more or less affected us, but not many of us really had assets coming fresh out of high school. But it leaves a sour taste in your mouth when mom and dad are like, hey, you know, that vacation that we talked about this year, it's not happening because Fannie Mae gave too many strippers mortgages. I guess the point that I'm trying to make is that millennials, when it's all said and done, are probably going to be looked at twofold. You know, they're going to look at the average millennial and say, well, what did you do? You know, and a lot of millennials are going to be able to say, well, I did this. And the other ones are going to be like, well, you know, I didn't really do much. I didn't really feel like I had a place in this world. I didn't belong. But if you are a millennial and you've just been paying attention throughout your entire life about whether it be pop culture or national emergencies or really just any of these watershed moments in our lifetime, which are, there's like 10 off the top of my head that I can think of. And I think that that's more than previous generations. Like you should know the devil by now. You know, that famous saying, it's the devil you know. And as millennials, I mean, we've been friends with the devil for a very long time. You know, and all they wanted to, all these old people wanted to say is, man, maybe if millennials stopped eating avocado toast in their coffee every day, they could be a multimillionaire. And, you know, it's like, Bob, if I had a fucking loaded gun right now, I would blow your fucking head smooth off for just saying that shit. Because that's the most ignorant, retarded take I have ever heard. Avocado toast is great, number one, right? Crispy sourdough bread. Think of it. Smashed avocado. Drizzle of lemon, a little sea salt, and if you're a slut like me and you like to get real nasty with it, get one of those poached eggs. Yeah, so Bob, I'll be eating my avocado toast today. Thank you, sir. Kill yourself. Anyways, it's going to be up to us. I truly believe that. And yeah, we may be the the elders or the torchbearers for Gen Z, and I don't even know what Gen Alpha. What are young kids today called? The iPad kids that it's like 7 out of 9 are autistic because the iPad's been in front of their eyes this whole time. I know family members like that. I've got friends that are personally affected by, the iPad generation. How do you think that's going to shake out? Because I feel like those kids are exactly what that Wall-E movie, was talking about. And I'm not trying to be mean when I say that, but when kids look at YouTube all day, what's the outcome? You're just going to grow up and be a YouTuber. Well, I mean, I wonder what fraud we're going to be uncovering in 20 years for that. Again, I'm not trying to be rude, and none of this is specific, but I just think us millennials, after living through Obama, Obama was college for me. And I think most of us, I'm 38, my age, we remember the world before President Obama in this country of being like, wow, there's really not a whole lot of conflict going on, in the schools and all this stuff. And I don't want to sit here and be that boomer fag that points the finger and says Obama did it. But Obama is responsible for allowing propaganda to be used on countrymen here. But before Obama, if you lied on TV and you got caught, there were serious consequences, fines, jailing. Obama made it to where you could spread misinformation, disinformation, you could tell lies to the public, essentially with immunity. And look at COVID. You think that Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson would have rolled out all those poison shots if they didn't know that they were going to get away with it? I don't think they would have. So, yeah, now that World War III is at our doorstep, millennials, it's time to sack up. It actually might be time to quit our jobs. I think the new American dream may be to move from America, maybe Venezuela. I think we all deserve it, millennials. Yeah, let the old people sit here and rot with their choices and the world that they're choosing to leave behind. Because I really don't think they've left it better than what they found it. And, one of these days, one of these podcasts is going to be positive, and I have a lot to be grateful for, just like you people do. But, it's been 3 weeks. I've been a little backed up. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this. It's been nice to get back here in this seat, and talk to you. And, in the meantime, I'll definitely be back. I felt like I went longer today because I actually produced this episode. Over the 4 days I sat in a bar drinking beer with some friends, I actually put some thoughts down on paper. I don't know if YouTube's going to strike me for some of the colorful language I've used, but I just want to say one more time, I'm not. This is not personal, and I probably should have said this in episode 1, but this is performative for me. It's not the Donald Blake Green show. It's the Don Verde show. As much as I like to think that this character is me, it's not. There are some views that are mine, but I do tend to want to amplify some things for comedic effect. And a lot of you are like, well, I mean, this hasn't been funny yet. Well, fuck you. I'm trying. And this is not my bread and butter. This is just something I do for fun. And it allows me to get on here, you know, say some wild stuff, some things, you know, some true things, some things that I do believe are true. But for the most part, man, I'm just out here trying to have fun. You know, the world is on fire. So if you can't laugh, then, you know, then I don't know what to tell you.